go live just yet, but um, I heard something about this TD Jake situation that happened recently. I heard about it earlier today, as a matter of fact. What happened with TD Jakes? Hold on, let me get the AirPods in. Better look. Um, it all boils down to what I was talking about. From Jump Street about putting these people on a pedestal. Doesn't matter what religion. Um, it doesn't matter what type of entertainer. It doesn't matter any of these things, right? Like, you don't know what these people are doing when they're not in the limelight. You know, and you know, the first thing that I started thinking about, right? Because I didn't know anything. I don't know anything about Jakes's personal life. You would assume that he was married, right? Like he was a guy that's up in age. Um, you'd assume that he was married, maybe had kids, all of that sort of stuff, right? Those are things that you would assume. But that's not the first thing that really crossed my mind. Because when I was hearing these allegations, and lo and behold, like we have to be mindful that these are allegations at this point. Um, but the first thing that I thought about, right, when I heard about this, I was like, man, I wonder I wonder what's gonna happen with the people that got baptized in his church. I wonder what those people think. Like I started thinking about his church first before I even thought about his family, right? Because as somebody who is so devoted to their faith, right? Like somebody who's so devoted to their faith, or so it seemed. Um, you know, this wouldn't be a message, right? That he would, um, or not a message, but this wouldn't be something that he would want, to represent him or to represent his church, right? Um, but yeah, so I'm here and I'm thinking about the situation. I'm like, yo, like his the people that's in his church. Imagine what they think about this now, right? Are they now thinking to themselves, man, maybe I gotta go get rebaptized, or maybe I gotta sort of maybe change religions. Maybe, you know what I mean? Like, what exactly are they thinking at this point? Right? The millions of people around the world that know about this individual, the millions of people around the world that tune into his the shows that he be having, right? Is it what is it called? Shows? What do they call it? His sermons. What are you talking about? We're talking about the TD Jake situation, WSP 153. Talking about the TD Jake situation. So evidently, TD Jakes is under investigation for evidently, right? Like I haven't been substantiated. This is something that I heard about this morning. But I've been hearing things like this through the grapevine for a while. But the allegations, again, these are allegations, and we're gonna treat it as such at this point. And these are allegations, but these allegations, they don't look. That's not how you want your church represented. You know what I mean? So I'm just gonna type in TD Jakes and see what comes up, right? So let's see TD Jakes news. So how past TD Jakes denies sexual misconduct. Okay, all right. So yeah, so there are actual things that are actually happening. All right, this they want me to sign up for something. I'm not signing up for anything. So Dallas-based Bishop T.D. Jakes denies misconduct claims in new affidavit. Well, of course, right? You would expect that. But yeah, Stonecrest, Georgia. Okay, so Dallas-based mega church pastor Bishop T.D. Jakes has once again denied allegations that he SA'd two other ministers. Now he is claiming that he is a victim of a smear campaign. Now, I don't know the details of what it is that um sort of happened. Like I did hear certain things. Um, I believe it was Willie D, but it was like another podcast to kind of breaking down what it is that was happening. Um, but I'm sure they might go into some detail. So let's find out what it is that was said. Let's see if this news article, and by the way, I'm reading from chron.com, chron.com. So if you guys want to read along or whatever, you can go ahead and go there. It says, in all my years, I have never, hold on. So, in all my years, I have never initiated a lawsuit against anyone, Jake said in a new affidavit filed in a 562-page package of legal documents in a Pennsylvania federal court last Friday. We filed this lawsuit against individuals who were supposed to be men of God, but are clearly not. So he's alleging, right? Or he, yeah, sort of, right? But he's saying that these allegations are not true, basically. He's saying that these individuals are lying. He's saying these individuals are people that he would have thought were men of God. But I think on the flip side of that same coin, maybe other people thought you were a man of God as well, Bishop T.D. Jakes. But again, we still have to treat these as allegations because, people allege things, right? So we can't just, just go off on a whim and just automatically assume this guy did these things. You know what I mean? I appreciate you, unknown user, for liking. Hey man, how's your night going? Night's going great. Thank you so much, Sinister. Appreciate you. Appreciate y'all. You get 2 likes now. Everybody like. Yeah, y'all like the video. Like the video. Don't forget to like the video. So in all my years, right? So we already read that part. All right, cool. So the 67-year-old leader of the Pastor's House Church filed a defamation suit against Dwayne Youngblood on November 24th, one day after Jake suffered an unspecified medical incident while preaching on stage at 30,000 member mega church in North Texas. 30,000 member mega church in North Texas. That is, again, I believe he's Dallas based, is what it is that was said earlier. Thank you so much again, unknown user, for liking the video. Make sure you guys are hitting that thumbs up button. Um, but yeah, 30,000 members. So think about that, guys. Like, every day you're getting up there and you're preaching in front of 30,000 people, and I'm sure those people are sharing what it is that they're seeing at your church. I'm sure there's millions of people watching around the world, in some way, shape, or form, right? I think I would say most Americans have heard of TD Jakes, even if you don't know TD Jakes, even if you're not a religious person, you've probably heard the name before. And there's a reason behind that, right? But when you're, you know, like, there's something there. There's obviously something, there's a reason why people want to listen to what it is that he's saying, right? So it's almost as if he's filling some sort of void for a lot of these people, right? And it's like these people need somebody to um, you know, say these kind or inspiring words to them, right? And there's nothing wrong with that per se. Like, I'll never sit up here and bash somebody that's inspiring other people, but it's like when you're trying to manipulate people, that's where I draw the line. And not saying that, again, not saying that this is what it is that's happening here, right? Because we don't know. These are just allegations as of right now. We don't know if this is something that he actually did or didn't do. But yeah, 30,000 members, mega church in North Texas. Youngblood is 58 years old, a former pastor who is a registered. Oh, so he's a registered S offender. So this gentleman Youngblood is a registered S offender in Pennsylvania. Appeared on the Larry Reed Live YouTube talk show on October 28th and November the 3rd, accusing Jakes of SA him roughly 40 years ago when he was 18 or 19, per reporting by Christian Post. So that kind of adds a new dimension to this, right? So this wasn't something that I heard about when I was listening to the podcast, right? So evidently this guy is also somebody that's a registered offender, right? In the state of Pennsylvania. Um and again, we still have to treat this, we have to take it with a grain of salt, regardless of how you feel about religion, regardless of how you feel about TD Jakes, right? I've never really been a big TD Jakes fan. Um, didn't really think about him much, knew of him, of course. But at the same time, it's one of those things where it's like, I suppose my mind is somewhat geared towards, see, look, this religious guy who's supposed to have this big religious platform, who all of these people are tapping into and tuning into what it is that he's saying. Look at what it is that he's doing behind the scenes, right? And the thing is, nobody's perfect, but at the same time, it's like, yo, bro, like this is some of the most disgusting things that you could do to another individual. um you know and that's the sad part about it, right? Because a lot of people are, again, tapping into somebody who's alleged to have done these things, but at the same time we got to sort of take it with a grain of salt, because the other person is also a registered offender in the state of Pennsylvania as well. And some people, I mean, you hear that, you might think to yourself, okay, maybe TD Jakes is the one that kind of got him started, um you know for lack of a better term, right? We're gonna keep it PG. But yeah, maybe TD Jakes is the one that got him started on that deep, dark, down word spiral. But we don't know, right? We don't know. So we have to just treat it as something that we don't know. So a lot of people are assuming that they know and assuming that these things are true. I can't sit up here and just assume that these things are true. It does look really, really bad. But I want to get some more details before I say this is exactly what it is that happened. Regardless of how I feel about religion, regardless of how I feel about this guy, I want to give people a fair shake, bro. You understand what I'm saying? Because the thing is, we live in times where anybody could say anybody did anything to them. Anybody could say anybody did something to them. I've never been a religious person, but when religion becomes force, it's too far. Hey, man, love your views, not extracting your beliefs. Nah, I appreciate that, Project Vex. I appreciate that. But what you said about never been a religious person, but yeah, me personally, I believe that religion was kind of forced upon us, and um I believe religion is a way that people are controlled. You know, it sort of controls the way that you think. Like I don't have a problem with being spiritual. Like we're all spiritual beings, whether we want to be spiritual beings or not, right? Whether you like it or not, you're a spiritual being having this human experience, and that's how I look at everyone. So regardless of how what socioeconomic background that person is, regardless of that person's race, regardless of anything, that person is a spiritual being having this physical experience. Now, some people, right? Some people, because it's like some people may think that there are other people that are more spiritually inclined or more in tune, um or more spiritual than they are, but that's just not the case. Now, I'm not saying that you can't learn things from people, you absolutely can, but there's no such thing as somebody being more spiritual than you are. So yeah, you could say there are people that are more spiritually in tune, you could say there's people that more spiritually aware, but as far as being more spiritual than you are, no, because we're all spiritual beings. Everybody's a spiritual being, regardless of anything. I think when you sort of humanize things, or humanize it, I don't think that's the correct. You know what I'm trying to say, right? Right. When you try to give it human characteristics, the word's not coming to my head, but it's a use that word that I use a lot. But when you try to give these things human-like characteristics, then it goes off into ranking and who's this more spiritual and that more spiritual and this, that, and the third. Well, everything is energy. Energy can't be created nor destroyed, and we're all just energy. We're all just energy. Now, I do believe in karma. I do believe that the seeds that you plant, you do reap what it is that you sow. I do believe in those things, right? And when you wrong somebody, if you deliberately wrong them, I'm not telling anybody to be a pushover. I don't co-sign that, and I'll never tell people to be a pushover. But one thing I will say, right? When you do wrong somebody, try to make it right. Try to do your best to make it right. You understand what I'm saying? Um, yeah, that's it. Because we're not perfect. Like none of us are perfect, but at the same time, when you're doing stuff like this, it's like, bro, what? Allegedly, right? We can't again, we can't just say that he did it, right? But um, yeah, it just doesn't look good. You know what I mean? It doesn't look good. So yeah, roughly 40 years ago when he was 18 or 19, reporting by the Christian Post. After his online appearances, Youngblood's attorney sent a letter to the bishop demanding to be paid $6 million to resolve this matter quickly and privately. So obviously, as Jay-Z would say, people sue you, you settle, right? So it's one of those things where in a lot of cases, especially with celebrities and in regards to situations like this, whether they did it or not, a lot of people would have settled, right? Because the publicity, they just wouldn't want it to see the light of day, right? But if it's something that never happened, then you can prove that it didn't happen, right? Because you weren't there, or you know what I mean. I don't think it's that difficult to prove that you didn't do it if you really didn't do it. But it's one of those things, man. A lot of people are trying to come up right now. So, he's saying that's how much he wanted to resolve the matter. You know what I mean? He's not saying he didn't come forth, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. It happened 40 years ago. He didn't come forth, 30 years ago, 20 years ago. He's coming forth now saying that $6 million behind the scenes, this whole situation goes away, right? So when it's all said and done, like, for me, I just, there are real people that have real trauma, in situations like this, right? So I'm gonna be sensitive to those people because those people absolutely deserve to be compensated for the terrors that they were put through. But when things like this happen and you think to yourself, all right, so why didn't like 40 years is like after 40 years it does start to look like, yeah, this is a shakedown, right? Um so I'm not here to say that it did or it didn't happen. I don't know, right? Why didn't you come forward like after 10 years, after 20 years, after 30 years? Wow, 40 years is like, you know what I mean? So look, I don't know if it happened or not, right? But yeah, I mean, 40 years is kind of crazy, guys. Youngblood filed a motion to dismiss the defamation suit in January. In response, Jakes claimed last week that he was motivated to take legal action after the health scare, which landed him in the hospital. All this was happening while I found myself helping my wife recover from knee replacement surgery and while helping my brother navigate kidney failure, Jakes wrote, per reporting by the religious news service. This unwarranted stress brought me to a place of having a health crisis on stage in front of my entire congregation. This is according to TD Jakes, by the way. As a guy who had no previous health challenges, this near death experience was a turning point for me. Enough is enough. So he's saying that the stress that this situation caused him made him um, suffer some health conditions, some health scares, right? While he was on stage. And that's rather unfortunate, bro. But if you did it, bro, I can't sit up here and say you don't deserve that. You understand what I'm saying? If this is something that you did, bro, that's something that I can't. You know what I mean? Like it's just one of those things. Like you reap what you sow. Like I don't like if you planted those seeds, you reap what you sow. And I know that's somewhat me saying what I said earlier about coming forth after 40 years. That's just me rationalizing that as like putting that into human form. But again, the flip side of that coin is this: you reap what it is that you sow. You understand what I'm saying? And it just so happened that, you know, it took this amount of time, right? So if you transgressed against that individual years and years and years ago, right? And you never tried to make it right, give me 1 second, guys. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. My apologies. I do apologize for that. Appreciate you guys being so patient. Have a good one, Brody. Thank you so much for tapping in, Project Vex. There are not more spiritual. We just find our own beliefs, and that's the max anyone can be. Absolutely, you're right about that. I should be on tomorrow. I appreciate you for tuning in as well. Thank you so much, man. I just wanted to tap in to talk about that situation that happened with TD Jakes, man. Whether it be TD Jakes, whether it be Diddy, whoever it is, I think people tend to put individuals on a pedestal, and really, when it's all said and done, um, I think it's very dangerous. And I think we all have to start looking within, and um because you'll know how to treat people based on how you want to be treated. You'll know how to um navigate, you know what I mean, the world based on how the thing. And I'm not saying everything works for everyone, but at the same time, if you don't want people to be an asshole to you, don't be an asshole to other people. And yeah, message of the day. I will be back tomorrow, as a matter of fact. I appreciate that. you know um don't put people on a pedestal. That's it. Take care, everyone.